There is a moment that arrives only once in a child's life, the crossing from 6 to 7, and most grandmothers let it pass without knowing what ancient wisdom says about it. They light the candles, they bring the cake, they sing and they laugh. And none of that is wrong. But something is missing, something that cannot be bought, cannot be gifted in a box, cannot be found in any store. It can only be given by a grandmother's mouth, close to a child's ear, on the night she turns 7. And if you do not know what that something is, then what I am about to share with you may be the most important thing you hear this year. The rabbis have always known that the number 7 is not an ordinary number. It is not like 4 or 9 or 12. The number 7 is woven into the very fabric of creation itself. Shabbat is the 7th day. The menorah has 7 branches. The land of Israel was given after 7 nations were displaced. The world was built in 7 days. And a child, according to the deepest teachings of the Kabbalah, does not fully enter her spiritual identity until she has completed her 7th year of life. Before that, she is in a state of becoming, beautiful, precious, full of light, but still forming. The moment she turns 7, something shifts in the spiritual realm. A gate opens, and what passes through that gate in the first hours of her 7th year will shape what kind of woman she becomes. Most modern families have no idea this gate exists, and so they let it open and close without placing anything sacred inside it. That is why I am here, because you found this, because something led you to listen today, and because it is not too late. Whether your granddaughter is turning 7 next week, next month, or even next year, what I am going to share with you will change how you show up for her forever. My grandmother gave me these secrets in her home 50 years ago. Every blessing, every protection, every tradition that makes a Jewish home truly sacred. Now I've gathered them all into one book just for you. Visit the link in the description or pinned comment and let me be your grandmother too. The 3 Hebrew words I will give you are not a spell. They are not magic in the theatrical sense. They are something older than magic, older than any trick or formula. They are a vessel. The rabbis called words like these a segula, a spiritual key that unlocks what the Creator has already prepared. You are not making something from nothing when you speak these words. You are claiming what was already there, waiting. Now let me take you back, not to a modern classroom, not to a synagogue with fluorescent lights and folding chairs, but to a village in the mountains of Morocco sometime in the early 20th century. There was a woman there, a grandmother named Miriam, who was known throughout her community not for her wealth, which she did not have, and not for her learning, which was limited, but for her grandchildren. Every one of them, people would say, carried something extraordinary with them through life. They faced hardship, yes. This was a time of hardship for everyone, but they moved through it with a grace that others could not explain. They found what they needed when they needed it. Their marriages were solid. Their children were healthy. And when you asked any of them what their secret was, they all pointed to the same thing. They pointed to their grandmother Miriam, and they said, "She spoke something over us when we were small." No one could remember exactly what she said because she said it quietly, as a whisper, as a prayer. But the weight of it, every one of them remembered the weight of it. The feeling of her lips near their ear, the warmth of her hands cupping their face, and the sense, even as a child, that something real had just been given to them. What Miriam was practicing, though she may not have called it by name, was a tradition that stretches back through centuries of Jewish life. The tradition of the spoken blessing, the deliberate, intentional transfer of spiritual energy from one generation to the next through words. The Torah itself tells us this is how it works. When Isaac blessed Jacob, when Jacob blessed his 12 sons before he died, when Moses blessed each tribe of Israel, these were not empty ceremonies. The rabbis teach that a blessing spoken by a parent or grandparent carries an energy that no other blessing carries, because the love is real, because the blood connection opens a channel that strangers cannot open, because God designed it this way on purpose. And this channel, this open, flowing channel between a grandmother and her granddaughter, is never more wide, never more receptive than on the night of the child's 7th birthday. Let me explain why 7 matters so much in the Kabbalistic framework, and then I will give you the words themselves. The Zohar, the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, describes the human soul as having multiple layers. The most external layer, the one we are born with, is called the nephesh, the basic life force. But beginning at age 7, a second layer begins to emerge. This is the ruach, the spirit, the emotional and moral dimension of the soul. The ruach is what allows a person to feel moral weight, to sense right from wrong, to connect with divine purpose. Before 7, a child lives primarily in the nephesh. At 7, the ruach begins to flower. And what happens to a flower when it first opens matters enormously. What lands on it in those early moments of opening, that is what shapes it. A blessing spoken by a grandmother on the night her granddaughter turned 7 lands directly on the opening ruach. It is as if you are planting something inside the part of her that will govern her emotional life, her character, her sense of self, her relationship with the divine. What you plant there will grow for 70 years. Now the 3 Hebrew words. They come from a psalm, Psalm 118, one of the most powerful psalms in the entire Hebrew Bible, recited during moments of great transition and great joy. The words are Ze Hayom Lashem. Say them slowly. Ze, this, Hayom, the day, Lashem belongs to God. My grandmother gave me these secrets in her home 50 years ago. Every blessing, every protection, every tradition that makes a Jewish home truly sacred. Now I've gathered them all into one book just for you. Visit the link in the description or pinned comment and let me be your grandmother too. This day belongs to God. 3 words, 12 letters. And when a grandmother whispers them into her granddaughter's ear on the night she turns 7, she is doing something precise and deliberate in the spiritual realm. She is consecrating the child's 7th year. She is declaring on behalf of the child who cannot yet declare it for herself, that this life, this specific, singular, irreplaceable life, belongs to the divine, that it is not random, that it is not accidental, that it is held. Do you understand what this does? Most children grow up with a quiet, unnamed terror underneath everything they do. The terror that their life does not matter, that they are small and the world is large and indifferent. That terror is what drives so much of adult suffering. The reckless choices, the desperate relationships, the hunger for approval that never quite fills the emptiness. All of it traces back, in so many cases, to a child who was never told, in a way that reached the deepest level, that she was held, that her life was sacred, that God had claimed this day and all the days after it. When you whisper Zeh HaYom Lashem into your granddaughter's ear, you are sealing that truth into her ruach at the exact moment it is opening. You are giving her an anchor that no storm can pull loose. The rabbis taught that words spoken with intention and love do not disappear into the air. They are recorded. They become part of the spiritual DNA of the child who receives them. And somewhere in her life, it might be at 17, it might be at 34, it might be at 52, she will face a moment so dark, so confusing, so lost, that she will need something unshakable to hold on to. And what she will find, without even knowing why, is a warmth, a voice she cannot quite place, a sense of being held. That will be you. That will be this moment. But I want to give you something more, because 3 words spoken without understanding are not as powerful as 3 words spoken with full intention. And so I want to tell you about the ritual that surrounds these words, the how, not just the what. On the evening of her birthday, as close to the moment of her birth hour as you can manage, you want to take your granddaughter somewhere quiet. It does not need to be elaborate. It can be a corner of the living room, a chair by a window, a spot in the garden if the weather allows. What matters is that you are away from noise, away from the distraction of other people, just the 2 of you. You will want to hold both of her hands in yours. Hold them loosely, not tight. This is not restraint, it is connection. And before you whisper the words, you will look at her. Really look at her. Not the way we look at people when we are busy, glancing and moving on. You will look at her the way the Torah says God looked at creation on the 7th day and called it good. You will see her completely. Then you lean forward and you bring your lips close to her right ear. The right ear, the rabbis taught, is connected to the side of chesed, of loving kindness. And you whisper, Zeh HaYom Lashem. This day belongs to God. And then, and this is important, you do not explain it immediately. You hold the silence for just a moment. You let the words sit in the air between you. Let her feel the weight of something sacred passing between generations. After the silence, you can add whatever words come naturally from your heart. You might say, I am blessing you, my love, because you are a gift to this world. You might speak her name and tell her what it means if you know. You might simply say, I love you and God loves you, and nothing in this life will ever change that. The specific additional words matter less than the spirit in which they are spoken. What matters is that the Hebrew words come first, and they come from you, and they come with intention. There is something the Talmud says about the relationship between grandmothers and grandchildren that I want you to hold in your heart. It says that a grandmother's love is a double love. She loves her grandchild as her own child, and she loves her grandchild on behalf of her child. It is a love that has passed through one generation and been refined. The impurities of anxiety and control that sometimes cloud a parent's love, and every parent will admit they are there, those impurities have been burned away by time. What remains in a grandmother's love is pure. And pure love, the Kabbalists teach, is one of the strongest spiritual forces in the universe. It is the closest human analog to the love of the Creator. And when that love is channeled through a deliberate sacred act on a significant spiritual night, the effect is not small. I want to address something here because I know some of you are listening and thinking, My relationship with my granddaughter is complicated. She lives far away. Her parents and I have had difficulties. She does not know about these traditions. She might find it strange. To all of that, I want to say, it does not matter. The power of this blessing does not depend on ceremony or on perfect conditions or on the child understanding what is happening. Small children accept these moments naturally. They do not analyze them. They absorb them. And even if she is at a distance, even if you cannot be there in person, even if you must whisper these words over a video call with her face on a screen, do it. The Kabbalists taught that intention travels, that a grandmother's voice speaking sacred words with a full heart reaches its destination regardless of physical distance. Love does not obey geography. Now, this is the part that many people miss, and I do not want you to miss it. The blessing is not a one-time event. The night of her 7th birthday is the opening. It is the planting. But what you plant needs to be watered, and the way you water this blessing is simple. Once a week, whenever you are thinking of her, perhaps on a Friday evening as you light candles, perhaps on a quiet morning as you drink your tea, you whisper the words again to yourself, Zeh Hayom Lashem. You say her name, you picture her face, and you send the blessing forward through time. This is not complicated. It takes 30 seconds. But in the Kabbalistic understanding of how spiritual protection works, it is the repetition, the continuity, the thread that you keep spinning. That is what builds something strong. A single beam can hold a little weight. A woven rope holds far more. There is a concept in Jewish mysticism called the Or Makif, the surrounding light. It is the divine energy that hovers around a person who has been blessed, not just within them, but surrounding them, forming a kind of spiritual atmosphere. When you repeat this blessing weekly, you are adding to that surrounding light. You are building the atmosphere that follows your granddaughter into every room she enters, into every relationship she forms, into every challenge she faces. She will not see it. She will not be able to point to it. But people will sense it. And more importantly, she will sense it in herself, in her confidence, in her quiet knowledge that she is not alone. Let me tell you about a rabbi from Vilna, whose name was known only among his closest students. He had a granddaughter who was, by all accounts, an ordinary child. Not brilliant, not particularly gifted, shy to the point of disappearing in company. He began blessing her every Friday evening when she turned 7. Always the same words, always with his hands on her head, always whispered first into her right ear. She grew up and moved far from him. The years passed. He continued his weekly blessing even when she was a grown woman, with children of her own, even when she lived in a different country, and they saw each other perhaps once a year. When he died at a very old age, his granddaughter was the one who spoke at his funeral. She said something that no one who heard it ever forgot. She said, "My grandfather was with me every single week of my life. I could feel him. Every time I faced something that should have broken me, I felt something steady underneath me, like a floor that would not give way." That floor, she said, was his blessing. That floor was him choosing week after week to hold her in prayer. You can be that floor. You can be that steadiness. It costs you nothing but intention and love, which are the two things grandmothers have in the greatest abundance. And now I want to give you the third layer of this teaching, because there is something in these 3 words that goes even deeper than what we have discussed. Ze hayom lashem. This day belongs to God. What the rabbis noticed is that this phrase from Psalm 118 appears at a specific moment in the psalm. It comes after the speaker has survived something terrible. It comes after the verses that say, "The nations surrounded me. They surrounded me on all sides. But in the name of God, I cut them down." It comes after the darkness. And then, after all of that, Ze hayom lashem. This day after everything belongs to God. This day of survival, this day of emergence, this day of crossing through, this belongs to God. When you speak these words over your granddaughter on her 7th birthday, you are not just blessing her for the good times. You are blessing her for what is coming that she does not know about yet. You are giving her a spiritual endowment for the hard years, the years when she will be surrounded, when she will feel that the nations of doubt and despair and loss have her encircled. You are planting in her right now, in this golden moment of childhood, the knowledge that she has already been given the tools to say on the other side of her worst day, "This day, even this day, belongs to God, and therefore so do I." This is the gift that cannot be purchased. This is what Miriam in the mountains of Morocco gave to her grandchildren without a formal ceremony or a theology degree. This is what the rabbi from Vilna gave to his shy, ordinary granddaughter, who grew up to be unbreakable. And this is what you can give. On one quiet evening in a corner of a room somewhere, with nothing more than your voice and your love, and 3 Hebrew words. Because abundance, real abundance, the abundance the Torah calls parnassah, is not only about money. The rabbis were very clear on this. Parnassah means divine sustenance in its fullest form. Health, peace, love, purpose, protection, provision. When you bless your granddaughter with these words, you are opening a channel of parnassah over her life in the widest sense. You are saying to the universe, this child is covered. This child is claimed. This child walks under a canopy that the Creator himself is holding. And here is what is truly remarkable, what most people never consider. The grandmother who gives this blessing does not only give, she receives. The act of blessing, as the rabbis teach this explicitly in the Talmud, returns to the one who gives it. When you open that channel of divine light toward your granddaughter, you stand in the stream of that light yourself. Every grandmother who has done this has reported the same thing, though they describe it differently. Some call it peace. Some call it joy. Some say they simply felt, for a moment, that everything was right. That is the light returning. That is the Creator honoring the love you have chosen to make sacred. Zehi hayom lashem. This day belongs to God. Remember these words. Write them down if you need to. Practice saying them until they feel natural on your tongue. Because the moment is coming, whether it is weeks away or months away, when a little girl will turn 7, and her ruach will open like a flower in the morning, and you will have the extraordinary privilege of being the one who places something sacred inside that opening. Do not let that moment pass unmarked. Do not let it be only cake and candles and noise. Add to all of that something ancient, something real, something that will still be holding her when the cake is long forgotten and the candles have been melted down to nothing. Be Miriam. Be the grandmother from Vilna. Be the one she will point to someday in a room full of people who want to know her secret and say, she spoke something over me when I was small. May your love be a blessing that outlives you. May your granddaughter carry what you give her into a life of health, of purpose, of abundance in every form. May the words you whisper find their way into the deepest part of her and take root and grow into something neither of you can yet imagine. And may the Creator who designed the bond between grandmother and grandchild with his own hands honor the intention you carry in your heart today and every day. Ze Hayom Lashem. This day belongs to God, and so does she, and so, beloved, do you. Amen. If this teaching touched you, share it with a grandmother you know, because somewhere tonight a little girl is about to turn 7, and her grandmother does not yet know what she holds in her hands. Subscribe to this channel so that these ancient teachings keep finding you, because every single one of them is a door, and you deserve to know what is on the other side.